Jesse finally buys an amiibo, but why? And our special guest to discuss the world of Nintendo and parenting, IGN's GM and co-founder, Peer Schneider. Zach, cue the music before I keep stumbling over my words.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to another episode of the Nintendo Dads Podcast. My name is Zach Erickson, and tonight is April 22nd, 2015. Joining
sorry,
us...
guys. I'm so sorry. There's a phone that's not muted here. Give me 1 second. Oh, man. See, I never record in this room for a reason, because there's a hard line in here. Who the hell calls this?
The red phone is going off as we speak.
I love how you ignored it during your intro, but it's so freaking loud, this thing.
This is the IGN bat phone.
Give me 1 second, Am. I just want to make sure it gets rerouted to another phone here. One second.
No worries. We can start over when we're done. It'll make a good blooper. I'll just fade it out. That's awesome.
Got a little rasp in your voice there, Justin?
I came down with a flu, pretty wicked bad, and I have been at home for 2 days, sucking back tea and honey like it's going out of style.
That is
and this
awesome.
Is the best.
You know how you get used to having phones that you can just shut
Yeah.
in the garden? Yeah, this one is not one of them.
Okay, should we just start fresh?
Sure, may as well.
Yeah,
Okay,
good.
cool.
See if I not stumble on that one either.
Hey, man.
Maybe he'll stumble twice.
It'll be better. It'll be much better.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Right on. Okay, in 3, 2, 1.
Welcome to Nintendo.
Now I'm hearing that echo again.
Welcome to Nintendo Dads episode 24. On tonight's episode, when will these crazy rumors stop? Jesse finally buys an amiibo, but why? And our very special guest to discuss the world of Nintendo and parenting, IGN's GM and co-founder, Peer Schneider. Zachary, cue the music, please, sir.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to another episode of the Nintendo Dads Podcast. My name is Zach Erickson, and tonight is April 22nd, 2015. Joining me tonight for episode, 24? 24 is, of course, Justin Masson. What's going on, Justin?
I, as you can tell, am losing my voice horribly, and I'm drugged up on Buckley's right now.
Whee!
So it's awesome. I feel like my voice is 2 seconds away from, like, Christian Bale's Batman. Swear to me.
Are we okay, Christian Bale's not like the weird new techno, like, changed
Ben
voice
Affleck
of,
one.
not the Ben Affleck Robo Batman? Okay.
It could be worse. It could be Bane.
It could
That's
be
fair.
Bane.
This is
No,
pretty
I
rough, though.
don't
This is-
think
this is-
so.
This is the
Okay.
best it's been over 2 days, so.
Right. Joining us as well is Jesse Waldeck, co-editor-in-chief of VGTribune.com. What's going on, Jesse?
I have a feeling by the end of this episode, I'm going to be seen as like the biggest grouch or Grinch.
I'm looking forward to that.
I
think
bet you are.
A good niche for you to serve, and I support you in your decision.
I do it well.
Right on. And joining us as well, a huge honor tonight for us to have Peer Schneider from IGN on the line as well. What's going on, Peer?
Thanks for inviting me. Why are you grouchy? What's going on?
We'll get to that. Probably 2 or 3 times. We'll get to that.
He's not happy with the amiibo situation also.
I think there's always a reason. Let's actually just jump straight into the news, shall we? Right on. Well, joining us again. Thanks for joining us, Peer. It's great to have you. You are, of course, co-founder of IGN. How long ago was IGN founded? And are you?
That was more than 18 years ago. So back in the mid '90s, we founded. It wasn't even called IGN at the time. It was called N64.com. We had a couple of websites. PSX Power, Next Generation was another one. Basically kind of companion websites to the magazines that Imagine Media used to run, and then they connected it all, called it the Imagine Games Network, which of course, we don't use that title anymore because we're neither just a games network nor are we part of Imagine Media. So yeah, it's been a while.
It's IGN is just like stands for
Yeah,
GN.
exactly.
That's pretty awesome.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, maybe someday we'll make a thing.
You'll have to go back and retroactively come up with a new acronym or something like that.
Yeah, no, we call it the
Retcon
Instant
the whole
Gravy
thing.
Network. It's either Instant Gravy Network or Internet Generation Network, whatever you want.
I like the last one.
I support the gravy one, Frank.
I like that one too.
Awesome. Well, starting off just for the news, it was kind of a light news week. We have, first off, Jesse, we had another, and it seems like this has been happening more and more lately, where
Late news week, so I'll make my own news.
yeah, there's this sort of idea that I mean, we talked about it with Alex from Nintendo Life as well. This idea that the innocence has been lost as far as this leak culture. It's kind of started out first with the guy who made the Rayman leak for Smash Brothers, and then over time it's gone worse and worse. And then most recently, what was the event? Sorry, I'm drawing a blank here on the event that somebody saw a Twilight Princess 3D.
Yeah, so when you get a Street Pass, you are told the last game that person played, and sometimes it'll have a link to eShop.
Mm-hmm.
So if you want to get information on it, so this is actually an interesting story. After I was able to dig into it a little bit, but someone took a screenshot of their 3DS. I think it's in German, so this is Europe region.
That was me. Sorry.
It,
was it you, Pear, that
posted by
amazing.
David Tarakanov. Says, I just met this guy at Zelda Symphony. And, but what seems to happen, so he posted this, then Twitter blows up. And then, of course, people, the My Nintendo News and other places start throwing articles out there saying, ooh, next new rumor. I'm like, no, you fools, stop it.
Well, I mean, the problem is you never know, right? I mean, I think there were 3 of these instances, starting with Rayman and Smash Brothers, and we didn't pick any of them up. We looked at them. We all talked about it internally. Like Rayman. Yes, it's super possible. We've even heard the rumblings and the inclusion of the trophy and all that. But then you just look at the proof and you're like, all right, why would somebody have that one shot or the footage of that menu but no gameplay? Why,
right.
Why didn't we, in our meetings with Ubisoft, did this ever come up? Like, it just seems so implausible.
And I mentioned that in my article, plus the 1,000-year door rumor. That.
Yeah, there's been.
And I posted an animated GIF of that little thing. Plus, I posted the video of the guy explaining how he faked this video. Anyway.
So, I mean, it is fairly easy to fake these, right? Like, if
right.
you're looking at the fakes,
but
it's just selection screens or Street Pass.
Right, but this is interesting in that the guy who took the photo didn't fake it. What it was is the guy who he street passed with, he modded or somehow hacked his system to change the data to make it look like he did. And if anyone actually accessed the fake eShop link, they eventually get banned.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, I think that's an interesting case, right?
Yeah, so this is a different case, but still, going from here to rumor is a big jump.
It also could have been. I mean, obviously, like realistically, it could have been 2 buddies too, right? Like, there's lots of situations. What's interesting to me is that it is so easily and I'm interested in your perspective on this as well, Pear, because like for IGN, obviously this isn't something that you guys would pick up and circulate, but obviously it's still getting out there to the masses, and it's something that is not that you're the only source, obviously, but like what is it about this that makes it so contagious and so easily spreadable, even though for anybody who with a critical eye is able to say, I don't think so, guys. Even though, but it still jumps to the top of Reddit or whatever, right? So.
Well, I think first of all, it's plausible, right? A lot of these mock-ups are very, very plausible things, like a port of a game that we're all familiar with. And and everybody wants to believe that Nintendo just has a ton more games than are coming out in the pipeline. And honestly, I mean, I've seen I've seen some funny fakes. I've seen a fake this year. I'm not going to tell you which one it is, where the fake actually got something really right that we know exists, but we know it was still a fake. And so
That's funny.
yeah, that's it. It just, you know, it happens. It's plausible stuff. We do sometimes pick it up, and only when a story becomes really big, right? When it's so loud on social and on forums that you just got to step in and you got to say, hey, the developer just says it's bold.
Right.
Most of the time, unfortunately, like, I wish the publishers would just say, no, this is bold, but like, they're so, I don't know, the machinery is so heavy and they move so
We do
slowly.
not comment on rumor and speculation.
And honestly, that's because NOA has no idea, right? Like, Nintendo will be like, oh, we don't know if that's real. Okay, Golden Harris, let's ask NOA. Let's ask Japan. That's going to take a week. Oh, they're not going to tell us. And like,
Yeah, good luck asking NCL anything.
even with Ubisoft, we know those guys so well, and they're like, we're not sure what that is. They're not telling you it's wrong because maybe somebody in France is working on something, you know? So it's just tough. I wish the PR engine worked better, and you would be able to get an answer to clearly disprove this stuff. And that's, of course, what the fakers pounce on, that it's so hard to get any company to even say no, which is ridiculous.
Yeah. And my big argument near the end of this article is, you know, yes, Nintendo does pull the, the Steve Jobs thing. And one more thing, this is out today. You know, there's a Nintendo Direct and NES Remix is out today. They do that on small games, not a Zelda game. If a Zelda game's coming, we know this months, if not years in advance. So there's no way that, especially coming after a Majora's Mask re-release, is a Twilight Princess game already not only developed and completed and in reviewers' hands that we don't know about. No, that's not happening.
Yeah. So what's the solution here as far as like, I mean, obviously this is something that really is probably not going to go away, right? Like, is this something that we just need, that eventually people on Reddit are going to start downvoting it instead of upvoting it?
I think there's two sides to the story. The one side is the social media part. Is, you know, people being stupid on the internet are just people being stupid, and that's not going to stop. What I was arguing about is gaming journalism treating it as a story. If you want to treat this as a story, treat how much Twitter is blowing up and how silly it is. Don't treat this as a legitimate rumor.
Well, yeah, and I think for the most part, I think there is a lot of potential. I think that for the most part, again, like I said before, anybody with a discerning eye and a little bit of, you know, critical thinking and things like that, it's pretty quick to happen. And honestly,
that was a very Herschel Layton thing of you to say.
It's almost like sometimes it feels like every day is April Fool's Day on the internet lately. So I don't know.
Except for April Fool's Day. That's when you get a Nintendo Direct.
There's also pressure, right? If you have an active community like we do, I mean, you will see that story in nearly every piece posted. You know, somebody will say, "Why are you not reporting on the new Zelda game?" And you know, you can't respond to all the comments and go through every thread. So sometimes the solution is to just put a piece out and say, "Hey, it's blowing up on Twitter, but it's not real."
I still don't know if that Binding of Isaac news is real or not.
I think they have actually come out and they have said that is coming.
I think so too, but the fact that they released it on April 1st and it's such a silly announcement.
I think that was the perfect level of trolling from them. The fact that they released that press release on April Fool's Day, and so even to this day,
as a crayon written document of all things.
Yeah, it was awesome.
I'll find out.
Yeah, it was pretty awesome. So yeah, I think that's true. And I don't know. For the most part, I think that if you can't beat them, join them. And our next step is to orchestrate our own shenanigans if this continues. I don't know. That's just my opinion. Maybe not. But anyways, moving on. Jesse, you bought some Amiibo this week. And,
Well, I would say I paid for them. I haven't received them yet. It was a pre-order.
Oh, okay, yeah. So now, for a little bit of context, Jesse just last week and for the past several weeks, has been saying he's not going to buy any amiibo, especially he's feeling like he's ripped off for Splatoon because he's going to miss out a bunch of content on Splatoon. He's mad because all this content is being locked behind amiibo and it's really dumb and he shouldn't buy it and whatever. And so, what did you pre-order this week, Jesse?
The Splatoon 3-pack. And the only reason why I knew about it is, I follow Twitter user Amiibo Wii U, and they'll make announcements saying, they have, this store has this Amiibo in stock. If you're interested, go get it.
Mm-hmm.
And sometimes they'll still post the. I get mad every time they do it, but they'll post an Amazon link to the Majora's Mask 3DS with one or two left in stock for $350. But no.
Nice.
But at least I did the pre-order at normal retail price, which is $35 in US.
So I kind of want to understand, Jesse, where did the decision change here? Like,
well,
do you feel like
I wasn't against buying Amiibo. I was against.
Okay.
Well, the main problem is the supply driving the price up in what is quickly the aftermarket. I'm not going to buy Amiibo for $30-$50. But if I can find an Amiibo that I want at the retail price, yeah, I'll pick it up.
Cool. So Pear, do you have a full set right now, like of everything?
Well, yeah. I mean, I have a full set of everything that came out before Wave 4. So up to the Gold Mario, basically.
Okay. Cool.
I did try to order that on the website, and it was sold out by the time I got there.
I actually did get a Gold Mario.
I saw that
this week too, and I went actually because I was like, not that I'm like a scalper, but I should at least see how much this is worth on eBay. And I was surprised that the price was not that high.
Well,
right now,
that's because the amiibo that I think everybody pegged as rare because it's a variant is actually not the rarest one, right? Like
I think
that's
so.
the whole problem with amiibo is that there is a shortage of the amiibos that are the main series that you want to complete your collection with, that you want to use in Smash Brothers. But the variant, the one that's exclusive to retailer, the gold edition, that is really just for collectors, is actually not for collectors because it's much easier to get. Yeah, it's really messed up.
Yeah, it's funny, and as well, it's an interesting thing as well that we kind of talked about it last week, but I'm interested on your perspective, Pear, as well. Is how do you feel about this idea, whose ever idea it was to roll out amiibo with the Smash Brothers line where there are literally 50 different SKUs, with multiple waves. I feel like this has kind of come back and bite them, in the rear end as far as like, holy crap, like this. Whereas if they would have launched with something maybe along like the Super Mario line has been fairly successful outside of Toad, which is probably again more of that perceived rareness than actually anything. I don't know. What do you think? Was that looking back like a good plan? Is it paying off? How do you feel Amiibo in general is going for Nintendo right now?
Well, I think it's very frustrating for anyone who wants a specific amiibo, right? Like if you walk into a Toys R Us, I stopped at one today, not because of amiibos. No, totally. I just wanted to see what they had, and they had, you can get Link, you can get Mario, and you can get Kirby, and so as for a parent who are just looking for a couple of these, it's not a terrible situation. But when your kid says, I really want Marth because I want to use him in this new 3DS game that I bought, or I want to unlock Kirby's special power, so get me King DDD, then it becomes an exercise in frustration, not just for collectors, but for anyone, anyone out there trying to shop for this thing. And that's the core issue. Is I feel the rollout should have been much more careful. I still don't understand what the huge issue is with the supply. I can only imagine that Nintendo has issues manufacturing them at scale, or was worried that it wouldn't move the numbers and they would be sitting on store shelves. Because, look, if Disney can keep Elsa in stock, and that was one of the most popular characters anywhere, right? Nintendo should be able to make enough Fire Emblem characters that hardly any gamer knows. And So I think it was just botched. It was mishandled. I think they're releasing too many Smash Brothers characters without a firm plan, and I think they're overstocking in certain countries. And like we're definitely seeing the worst of it in the U.S.
Yeah, and yeah, exactly. And then at the same time, you know, you go on Reddit or something and see pictures of shelves in, you know, in Germany or Europe somewhere, and it's just like, oh look, like shelves upon shelves of Marth and Villager and Pit and like all of these things, right? And it's just craziness. But.
And part of it is definitely the frenzy, right? Like you may not want something until you find out that you can't have it, and then
totally.
then it gnaws at you. You're like, man, I should have gotten that one, even though that's a dumb character and I don't really want it. And that's definitely what happened here too, where characters that, you know, probably aren't that popular, like take a Rosalina, become like this unicorn, this holy grail that people really want. So I think all of that combined created a terrible situation, but what would easily fix it is some clarity, right? Like announcing that you're going to restock Marth is one thing, but saying, hey, we're going to have Marth on this date and we're going to hold off on rolling out the rest of the line. That's what they need to do right now, and they're just not. They're not reacting.
There's zero communication at all.
They're tweets telling you to enjoy your amiibo, you know?
We've seen Nintendo kind of really commit to the amiibo idea as of late, apparent a lot of games.
Yeah.
Do you think that, obviously they're going to continue with this methodology, do you think they have any games that are sacred that they won't do amiibo support on? And I guess, you know, my question to that is something like The Legend of Zelda for Wii U. Do we speculate that would maybe have amiibo support as well? I mean, it feels like they're all in on this idea, but I mean, I think that there's some games that, I don't know, it feels a bit painting the brand almost.
I don't think so. I think they are. I think their value proposition from the outset was, how cool would it be if this toy worked as a key for all our games and not just one, right? Like, I mean, Skylanders go from Skylanders to Skylanders, but it's not like there's a spiral line of games that you can use certain characters for. And I really like that, and I think they're committed to it. I think you'll see amiibo support in pretty much every game.
Yeah. And then we get the spinner.
Yeah, of course. I mean, sometimes it's a lame thing, but it's still exciting that you have this, you know, you bought this toy and it will actually unlock something in the future. I still think it's cool. I mean, it's a positive experience for me because I'm getting a bonus for something that ordinarily I wouldn't have seen.
Yeah.
Most likely.
Totally. Yeah, and it seems like every time that new content is announced, I'm excited to, you know, to break out my amiibo again, and you know, like for example, when the new Mario Kart DLC was announced, I like looked over and I'm like, hot dang, I've got like 4 of those right now, and Bowser's pretty easy to get, so I like ran and went and bought another one, right? And so it's I think I agree, it is something that we're probably going to see quite a bit more, like every single game. Although, like, do you think we're going to get tired of this like constant cross compatibility? Like, is it going to be similar to Mario Kart, where literally like we're seeing like different franchises constantly crossing over, or you know,
that's dangerous, right?
Yeah, for sure. Like it's like you're watering down every single one of your brands at the same time. It's kind of something interesting to look at least.
I think, I mean, that it actually has happened in the past as well. I mean, if you think back to the GameCube days, Nintendo pursued the strategy of having, you know, some of their third parties not just develop their games like Star Fox, but also, you know, Link and Soul Calibur. I mean, there was crossover like that. Obviously, that's when Sega and the Sonic Olympic games started as well. So far, though, it doesn't really feel like they stretch their characters too thin. I think they're still doing a pretty good job with that. I mean, I'd say, what was it? Ace Combat is pushing it a bit. You know, like the Ace Combat stuff. Did you see it? It unlocks
the painted skins and whatever.
Yeah, but it's a nice carrot. I think they can dangle in front of the few, you know, third parties that are producing games for 3DS and Wii U to make sure that they're thinking about the platform as well. But yeah, it's. I mean, there's always risk that you're making these characters so ubiquitous that they're no longer special, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, totally. Justin, I'm looking in the notes here, and we're seeing EB Games Canada is saying they're no longer doing pre-orders for Amiibo. This looks to me like when I first read that, I said, like, wait, what? Like that is my saving grace right now for, you know, we're up in Canada, Pear, and like that is like my saving grace for Amiibo is like go to EB Games, to their store, and pre-order, and I just am confident that I'll be able to do it and not have to worry with all the online stuff.
Yeah, that's
Justin
you're
is-
seeing retailers react to, the negative experience in their stores, right? Like I don't think they're sure what the allocation is going to be, and so I think they're reticent to take a certain number of pre-orders and then disappoint customers and cancel out, because
And they
that
don't-
can create an unhappy customer for life, right?
And they
Yeah,
don't
so I
want
guess-
and they don't want their
essentially-
POS system to crash again.
Yeah, there's
Yeah.
POS. Right. So I went in a couple days ago, and truth be told, like, and I think I mentioned before, I really want to get Dr. Mark, and I know that it's like September, so I went in because I was throwing down some extra money on Splatoon a couple days ago, and I said, hey, by the way, how do I know, or how am I going to find out that when the next wave of Amiibo is available to order, how do I get a notification from you to essentially say, come give us money? Right? How do I be part of this pre-order? And the clerk, very straight, the manager said, we are no longer doing Amiibo pre-orders. And I said, well, what do you mean? He said, we've made a decision, EB Games Canada, that no longer will we be doing any pre-orders whatsoever, and that it's causing such a basically tarnishment of the brand, and to your point earlier, Per, like the stock levels, right? Like, so he was saying that when the availability here was on Easter to order Amiibos, basically people went in, ordered a bunch of, the rare one was, I think, Robin. A bunch of people ordered Robins from the store down here. And then the next day, EB actually got the allocation of how many they were actually allotted. And they were allotted 5, and they had 15 people on pre-order. So they had to phone those people and say, like, I'm sorry, you're not getting it. Right? Wow. So it's a PR nightmare, right? And then you see GameStop's POS system crash. So EB Games in Canada is taking the approach that no longer are we doing pre-orders, you're just going to find them in the wild. We have what we have.
That is nuts, man. Yeah, so I don't know. It's super interesting. We've had this conversation too about like who's to blame. Is it the retailers? Is it Nintendo? Is it their, whoever their distribution is for the Amiibo? Is there some strange pallet portal thing like wherever this West Coast strike was? Is that I mean, there's so many different things going into it that I don't know. Nintendo, it's kind of a nightmare, honestly, but it's something that.
So, Per, where do you and for all the listeners that we have, I mean, you don't want to give away necessarily your Amiibo hunting secrets there, Per.
Huh.
But I don't know whether you're laughing at your secrets or laughing at our number of numbers or our number of listeners. How do you do you just kind of stop by a store every couple days, or do you do some eBay? Like, what do you do?
Well, I'm laughing at the fact that I shared all my secrets and now I can't get Amiibo anymore. No, I wrote a wiki on IGN giving people tips on what to do. Obviously you could just be vigilant and make sure you show up at the stores at the right time. Join there's a Facebook group that I love, the NVC Amiibo group. It's an invite-only group, no scalpers allowed, trade Amiibo for Amiibo only, and they alert each other as to when something's available. So that's a really good starting point. But it's become so crowded, and everybody uses, in-store trackers and email alerts that the moment you get an alert, it's already gone. Like you got to just move so quickly. I think the only possible solution right now, unless you really sit at your computer the entire day and night, because some go up for pre-order at 3 a.m., is to create a network of friends. I mean, you have to, or buddies who, it's almost like, people betting on lotto. Like, you got to work with others in order to get enough Amiibo to trade them and make sure everybody gets the rarer ones. It's
madness. That's crazy.
It is complete madness. I mean, I work for IGN, and so I'm at my computer, a good amount of time of the day, but I miss these all the time. I'll come back to my desk, I'm like, 15 minutes, Walmart had, Wario for pre-order. It's like, he's gone, and that's not a rare one. That's going to be a common one.
Yeah, totally. Yeah, that's insane. So, I don't know. It's definitely interesting. I think that it's probably going to get worse before it gets better, but it feels like we're right on the peak of how could it possibly get worse than this. And then I remember that Yarn Yoshi Amiibo is coming out soon, and I tend to lose all hope.
Yeah, I've got 2 daughters, and they're already looking at those Yarn Yoshis, and I'm like, yep, I will be killing someone for those, I'm sure.
Yeah, that's the other bummer, right? Like if you have kids and you just want to get some of the amiibo. Like I would be able to live without the non-smash lines, honestly. Maybe not, but yeah, I could have. You know, the Smash Brothers ones look so cool and they really fit together. Whereas the Yoshi ones are really cool toys, but it's not the same, right? Like I might not display them with the rest of the crew. Um, but yeah, and then you're thinking, my daughter sees them, she's like, oh my god, that's the most amazing thing I've ever seen, and how can you not want those, right?
Hmm.
The
Yeah,
Nintendo
my
Dad's
my
podcast
3-year-old.
does not endorse homicide as a solution to your problems.
Yeah.
Yeah,
No, I
yeah.
think the best solution is just for people to be vocal to Nintendo, and when sometimes when they do one of their unfortunate tweets, people get pretty nasty in response. I don't think that solves anything, but like write to them, tweet at them, let them know that you're frustrated, that you want to buy something, because the data that Nintendo will not get from a retailer is someone walking in saying, "Do you have Amiibo? No, goodbye." That's data that Nintendo never sees, right? And so unless you let them know that there are lots of people in a certain territory, like you tell them what state you're in, state, crazy, they're not gonna know. So,
Besides the
tweet
state of
to them.
confusion?
Hmm?
Besides the state of confusion?
Yeah, exactly.
Right on. Cool. Well, hey, awesome. That's great. Let's move on quick. Tomorrow, is it tomorrow?
Tomorrow.
Tomorrow, really? The Mario Kart 8 DLC pack is dropping. Um, yeah, I'm super excited for it. I actually found this video that has music. I think if you haven't heard it on the Nintendo YouTube channel, you can check it out. I love the music. Music of Mario Kart in general is just amazing. But who's excited for this, man? Like this is gonna be great as far as.
Yeah, I think the DLC packs look great. I'm excited for it. I know it's it got me this week. And we'll talk about a bit of what you're playing, but it got me back playing Mario Kart 8 this week. Realizing that to be able to do the 200 cc's, I have to unlock 550 cc's, and I hadn't yet. So it got me back to playing and just relishing how beautiful a game that is. So I'm excited for this to drop tomorrow.
Oh, me too, man. I'm really excited. Pear, are you a big Mario Kart? Do you do a lot of Mario Kart at your house?
Yeah, I love it. My daughter and I play it a ton. It's so nice to get this DLC later, because naturally, even if you love a game, after a while you get to this point where you say, you have so many other games that you're going to move to something else, and you tend to forget how great another game is, and then there's still gameplay left. I mean, I could jump back on Mario Kart right now, and I'd be playing for hours with my friends. And so it's awesome to get these updates where it effectively forces you to take another look, and then you get hooked all over again.
Hmm. Yeah, I'm a huge fan of the way that Nintendo has rolled out specifically this Mario Kart DLC. We kind of had a little bit of a discussion about this. I think it was last week, about how the Smash Brothers DLC rollout almost feels like, in comparison to Mario Kart, it almost feels a little bit like a whimper instead of this great, just this awesome package of DLC that is released all at once. Whereas Smash Brothers, it's like, oh, here's Mewtwo and these costumes, that are overpriced or whatever. As well, talking about, just on the topic of DLC, the Splatoon was just recently announced that they are going to be doing DLC for that as well. So, what do we think the Splatoon DLC is going to look like? Like, are we thinking just like the classic sort of Call of Duty, Battlefield sort of model of here's more maps and weapons and stuff like that, or?
Yeah, I think they're going to take the same approach they do for something like a Mario Kart, right? They're going to provide new maps, right? Maybe it's 8 new maps or 4 new maps, very much so kind of the same approach they currently have. And here's a couple new pieces of kit or clothing for the Splatoon figures. And I think that's probably what we'll see. I think they realize that, and I'd love to see the marketing numbers on Mario Kart 8 and see what they got for the downloads and the actual sales on it. But I'm willing to bet you they did quite well for themselves. So I think they're going to take that approach for sure.
Yeah, I was thinking maybe clothing, but if they do, we were told that depending on some of the clothing might have stats to increase certain abilities. If they have clothing available to buy, I think it better be statless, and so you're not doing a pay-to-win button, but just
or
being,
at least similar to
or
in-game stuff.
or at least have at least have small stats. That's something where you could get better stats in the game, but you want to do that too, so the people have a choice of how they want to look cosmetically. You don't want them to, get, as I said, a pay to win. We don't want that.
Bear, have you had a chance to play Splatoon yet?
Yeah, I've checked it. I've checked it out before. There's we got some playtime with a version that I can't talk about it yet, but
Okay.
I played it. I played it at E3. Obviously, the game's evolved quite a bit from then. Yeah, I mean, I honestly don't know what form the DLC ultimately will take, and I don't know that Nintendo has had that experience with a game like that and what matters. Whether it's gonna just be it's gonna be about new levels, or it's gonna be heavier more on kind of like the items to spiffy up your characters. Like I don't know that yet. It's gonna be interesting to see.
What do you think of Nintendo putting this kind of in that same placeholder that they put Mario Kart last year, Paris? Is that kind of you think a look on their confidence in the game, or just a placement in the
Yeah.
calendar, so to say?
Yeah, it's an odd move, right? It's definitely, as you may know, the summer spots are not the times when games traditionally blow up and become big, right? There's the holiday shopping season in the US is the most significant time to really kind of release a big title. At the launch of a console, that's when you introduce new IPs and get people to know it. And then March is another time frame where you can really make a splash. So I think it's just it's a little bit of a test for them too. It's a fun, happy game, so it's like it is a nice summer game. It does remind me more of a Mario Sunshine kind of title. But yeah, it's a really tricky one, and like with a game like this, I think Nintendo, they either need a lot of goodwill from the audience and the audience saying, "Hey, that looks really cool and different than anything else on the market," or you need to put it at a time where it'll really sell, which would be the holidays. I don't know. I don't think it's going to be a huge success, but as a parent, with kids, I'm really happy that they're experimenting with the shooter genre in a way like this.
Yeah, I totally agree. Because I mean, otherwise, you know, it seems like there was with the early days of like GoldenEye or whatever, where it was, the technology wasn't quite good enough to make it, like super realistic, and so it was all kind of cartoony anyways, right? And so it was okay for kids to be playing at least that was sort of my experience growing up. Was, I was a teenager at the time, and so just playing GoldenEye or Perfect Dark or whatever, it kind of had that sort of layer of cartooniness, I guess, or whatever, and it's become a lot more gritty. And so to see Nintendo, kind of liven it up and bring the color to it, but also bring that sort of same fun gameplay to a whole new audience is pretty exciting. To be able to play this without having to worry about content.
Well,
Yeah.
I think that's the interesting approach that I think Perry, you're kind of mentioning there, especially with kids, right? Like, so if I said like, hey, I'm going to introduce my children who are 4 and 6 to a first-person shooter, that doesn't feel like a good idea,
Yeah.
right? Just from kind of parenting ideas. But when you look at a game like Splatoon, which isn't about the headshot, it isn't about killing the individual, but rather covering territory in paint, that fundamentally changes a bit of the scope of the game. So it doesn't have some of those negative connotations of the Call of Duty or the Halos when you're introducing a game. So I think, and added to that, the colorfulness of it and kind of the whimsicalness of the squids, I think it's a very interesting game to bring to a market and be able to introduce kids to it.
Yeah, I mean, the challenge with that game is twofold, right? It's the marketing message. It's like, how do you get more people to talk about this game as being something special and being something unique? And, the problem with a lot of mainstream media who are in a position to reach parents who are not gamers is that they just don't care about that stuff, right? Like, that's not the exciting story. They want to hear about the violence in GTA. They don't want to talk about this game. And I think that's a challenge for the growth. Skylanders and Disney, all those brands are in a completely different place, right? Where it was something unique and special that everybody started to talk about. And I think that's ultimately what holds this game back. I think, Nintendo also is a little timid nowadays. I mean, like, when they introduce the characters, I mean, you see that in the with the amiibos, they don't have names. Like, it feels like
Yeah.
Nintendo takes a really long time to get its brands ironed down, and like even with names of games, everything is project something, like as if it is that hard to come up with the detailed title in advance, right?
Yeah, like the latest in the Fire Emblem
And,
series.
and I don't know what caused this, that they have this decision angst, but come on, like get the character names down, go big on trying to create these mascots. I think that's going to happen, by the way. I think you're going to hear names for both the male and the female player out there, but it's it feels like a missed opportunity to really give that game more character.
Even Mario didn't have a name until Donkey Kong Jr.
Well, okay, so maybe it's a classic story, right? Like maybe that's how it works.
Do you think that it could be a sort of result of the fact that I mean, we've heard so many times that specifically like Nintendo of America has so little warning about some of these projects sometimes that maybe they just don't even have enough time to come up with something before they need to announce it, right?
Yeah.
Like in a direct where we just see like Fire Emblem in Japan, but we just have the latest in the Fire Emblem series over here because they're like, oh crap, we have to announce this, but we don't have a name for it yet. So
it is. I mean, seriously, right? Like coming up with a name for a Fire Emblem game at this point, where I guarantee you, they know the entire story of that game. That shouldn't be that hard. And like it's going to be a pretty generic title in the end.
Yeah, it'll probably be pretty similar to the Japanese title.
Yeah,
sure.
I like If is kind of cool. I mean, it's very Japanese. I wouldn't mind a title like that.
Last time I had a chance to talk it up with a Nintendo call center rep, they for the most part, at their level, they know what we know. They don't get any secret information, that probably doesn't leave Bill's and Reggie's desk.
I think that extends in some cases to their PR agency too, where they do play certain things very, very close to their chest, where, like, I mean, just looking back at our history and dealing with Nintendo, sometimes we sat down with the PR team and they asked us, what have you heard,
That's funny.
Maybe your sources have more meat on it or whatever.
And I guarantee you, I mean, the same.
My sources will get with your sources.
Yeah, but sometimes it happens with other companies too, right? Where like a Steve Jobs or Bobby Kotick goes on the record on an investor call and spills something where 2,000 people in their company go, "What? We've never heard about this before." So it happens.
That kind of sounds like Nintendo soft announcing NX just during their investor briefing.
Yep.
That opened up a few eyes.
They're like, yeah, and that was no surprise, right? I mean, we knew we were working on stuff. The only news there was the NX part. Was those two weapons.
Oh, right. If you think they weren't starting to plan the next system the day after Wii U launched, you're crazy.
So that's, by the way, that's a good one, right? Like if anybody had leaked the title of the next Nintendo system as the NX, we would have ignored that. It sounds like a fan made it, Like Nintendo's hardware always has names like, Project Flower Garden or, I mean, Project Cafe and Dolphin and all these things are very different names than this NX, which sounds very aggressive, and I mean it sounds like Xbox, so
Yeah, totally.
I think it's their play on next generation NX.
Yeah, I don't know. I'm excited to see what comes out of that for sure.
Totally.
Let's see. Let me just look at their notes here. So finally, we've got something added here just now. Is we have
Hot off the presses.
High Touch Amiibo released in Japan. So this is Amiibo Tap, which as Iwata says,
it's like a box of chocolate. You never know what you are going to get.
Wait, that was Forrest Gump. That wasn't Iwata. That's from the Japanese edition.
yeah,
Still
exactly.
Yeah.
So Amiibo Tap is out in Japan. There's a website
Back
Yeah, this is out in Japan. So they said that the director was coming spring.
Excuse me.
So I don't know. We haven't seen at least I haven't seen if we got a release for the downloads for tomorrow yet. But by the time you're listening to this, you may be opening your box of chocolates with your Amiibo to play NES clips.
I checked the release data on Game Packs for that game, and it's still listed as just Q2. So, who knows?
Has there been a press release for that? Has there been a press release for this week yet on what the downloads are?
They don't normally come out until Thursday morning, so
Yeah.
we'll see it tomorrow.
You're coming in pretty quiet, Justin, by the way.
Sorry, what's your thoughts on this touch and tap amiibo?
Well, I mean, it's an interesting way to assign value to every amiibo in the lineup, right? I mean, that's the approach here. Like, I'm looking at the Japanese site yet, and they totally snuck it out, right? They didn't really. I don't think they had a date for this. It arrived early in Japan, and it says, it says we download free, and it's like, well, no, there's scenes from the game, so it is more akin to giving people access to eShop demos. Obviously, the idea is to upsell them to download the whole games, and so my viewpoint, I'm not that excited about it because I mean, I own all of these games. I either own them on old classic carts, and I have them already on one of the many eShops on one of my systems. So to me, it's like, it's cool to see which amiibo, like, just unlocking stuff with your amiibo, but we'll see what the actual value is and how much of the game you can really get in that short time.
Yeah, I mentioned on a previous show that the value for that game is pretty small for me, considering at this time I own one amiibo, and later I'll have 4.
Yeah, but there are people with many amiibo and who have not played the classic game, so that's a kind of a cool thing.
I think this is an incredible bridging opportunity. Talking to your point there, for those who have not played the old classic games.
Yeah.
Like for a kid who's maybe coming in at 10 or 11 years old, who hasn't played some of the greats like Excite Bike or the original Kirby or F-Zero, right? Mm-hmm. You say where did these come from? Oh, these games were released before I was a child. What are these like? And if Nintendo can kind of gateway them into their old classic library, that's not all about the fancy graphics and voice chat, but rather the fun of Nintendo games, then you're building a lifelong audience. So I think it's an important push for them. I think for people like us in our ages who's grown up with them and have much of these already, it's not a huge value.
Yeah, but it's cool. I mean, so on the Japanese website it tells you in Japan it launched with 30 games. It's a mix of Famicom and Super Famicom games, so Super NES and NES games, and they're highlighting certain scenes. They're like, hey, play through Wispy Woods. Of course, there's a time limit on it, but Wispy Woods in Kirby 3, or try out the Mario circuit in Super Mario Kart, kill Mother Brain in Metroid. So it's a neat idea. I wish there was a little bit more value to this. Nintendo's very, very precious with their classic games. They still charge a lot for them. I wish there was a little bit of a different value proposition where somebody who has 30 amiibo can play these games for 30 minutes or something.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, totally. I don't know. I'm excited to see it come out. I think it'll be fun for my son to try it out and see which ones you get each time. And
well, and that's actually a great point right there, Zach. Right? So you can sit down with your son. You can scan. I don't know. Let's see, the Mario amiibo on, and he gets Legend of Zelda, right? The NES version. Wow, this is great. And you go, wait, I played this when I was your age, and let's work on this little challenge together, right? So there could be this parenting bridge again with the kids. So I think I think there might be a little bit more meat to it than we're kind of.
Maybe, yeah. I'm going to try it out with the kids and see. I mean, I've done. We'll talk about that, I think, a little bit more. But I've sat my kids down to play Super NES games. Many games didn't have the staying power with them that I expected. Like, I thought they would totally fall in love with Link to the Past, for example. But they just eventually got stuck and moved on to a different game. But it is cool to have that discovery factor and show your kids, hey, the games that you know now, this is where they came from. That's what they used to look like.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, totally. I mean, we can even just kind of transition straight into that. Honestly, it's a good sort of jumping off point as well, Peer, for you. Like, as far as we are Nintendo dads. That's kind of the sort of area that we kind of, we that's who we are, I guess. Is we've all got kids of varying ages and whatnot. And so, like, what role do video games, whether Nintendo or not, what role do video games kind of play in your house? What does that look like in your house?
As you can imagine, video games play a very big role in my house. I always tell my kids that they're the most spoiled kids in the world because they never have to really say, "Hey, can we get that game?" You know, I mean, I can always bring a game home if I don't want to buy it, because we have a big library at IGN, and you know, I have 4 Xbox 360s hooked up. You know, we've got Wii's, we've got you know, I don't even know how many 3DSs we have in the house, but we have 2 Xbox Ones, 2 PlayStation 4s, because you got to be able to play co-op games, right?
Yeah.
And I thought my kids were spoiled.
No, they are. There's no way. I don't think I can be beaten on spoiling my kids with video games. But I am, of course, also in the know, right? And so I know exactly what games are appropriate for my kids. I know what's in the games. I know, you know, my youngest is 9, and he tells me all the time that he's got kids in his class who play GTA 5. And I'm like, that's great for them. You're not going to play it, you know. It's just not. It's not.
I've had the same conversation with my 13-year-old.
Yeah, and you're like, and you're sitting there, and you're like, yeah. Most people have no idea when they hear video game, they think kids, and even when it has a warning like an M label on there, they probably think, how bad can it be? You know, they don't expect GTA to open with Trevor doing someone doggy style. You know, like, and when they see it, they're probably horrified.
Yeah, they're like, wait a minute, what's going on here? Yeah,
Yeah,
for sure. And I saw an interesting article this week as well, and I honestly kind of took it with a little bit of skepticalness. Sure, that's a word. You know, took it with a grain of salt. Talking about how Steve Jobs was apparently this, like, he'd never let his kid use an iPad or something weird. I don't know. It seems fishy to me, that whole story, but the article then continued on, you know, suggesting that a lot of people who are really in the know, you know, even like CEOs of technology companies are always super conservative with allowing their children to use technology. Like, what is the balance there? Because from my perspective as well, and I'm sure you can relate, is this idea that the more that the kids are allowed to kind of use technology, sometimes taking it away, there's like this huge explosion freak out, and
Yep.
you know, and so what does that balance look like for you? Like, are you like totally like very strict rules, only certain times and hours, or what does that look like?
We go back and forth. I mean, I think initially I approached it, you know, much like other parents, trying to limit the time, and like then you discover games that are just, they're so creative and in a way nurturing and clever. I mean, think of a game like Animal Crossing that is all about friendship and, you know, figuring out, like, really living in this peaceful world. And you know, then you kind of get more relaxed, and like before you know it, your kid's been playing that game the whole day simply because you enjoy the message. But then once in a while, you know, your son's sitting in front of Destiny hour after hour shouting at his buddies, and you're like, all right, that's enough. You know,
Just wrestle the controller.
yeah, it
My-
just kind of, it brings you back to the world of saying, wait, there's so many things that you could be doing. So the way I approach it, you know, when my kids are bringing home good grades, when they come home and they finish their homework, they can play games, you know, until the evening when we shut everything off. But when they bring home bad games go away in the week. They don't get to play games. They have to wait till weekends. And then, you know, I'm careful to make certain things mandatory. Like every Saturday we'll play board games together. And, you know, in the beginning, it was kind of like this mix between interest, where they really love the game, but then annoyance that they have to leave a video game behind. But now everybody's just used to it, and they know they can't fight it.
My youngest one had a similar situation that you described with Animal Crossing, but with Scribblenauts.
Oh yeah, that's another good one.
And you know, though you know, at the time she was maybe 9 or 10, so she needed, you know, assistance with the spelling, which I was, you know, able to help her with, but she did most of the thinking herself.
Yeah. My kids have gone, like, I've encountered some challenges, like with my son. My oldest has ADHD, and you have to tell him the same thing 100 times.
He's in
And,
good company. I also am a good company.
Oh, there you go. All right.
And
I can sympathize with that idea of like, oh yeah. Just a minute. I just gotta save this game, Mom. Like that was my story. I'll grow.
and he built his master's career around all that too.
Oh, very nice. So, but he looked a little tired in the mornings, and like his teacher also said, is something going on at home? He seems really distracted. That's always my favorite teacher question. And so I looked on
In
his
other words, you're not
3DS.
parenting correctly.
No, exactly. Like, what did you do to your child, right? And I looked on his 3DS, and the 3DS has the wonderful playtime tracker feature.
The log.
And the log showed that after I put him to bed, he would wake up late at night and start playing. And like there were like hour-long blocks, like 1 a.m., 3 a.m., 4 a.m., 5 a.m., where he would play games on his 3DS, you know?
Yeah.
And yeah, I mean, busted, right? Like, I'm like, look, my
Totally.
friend, I can tell what you're doing. He hasn't figured out a way around that yet. So I think the next time he tried to cheat that way, he used an iPhone. But of course, with Game Center, you can see when he gets his latest achievement and everything too. So,
Yeah.
but yeah, it's become an issue where, you know, like he wakes up in the middle of the night. He's like, oh yeah, I'm just gonna watch YouTube while play a game, and so I have to be on top of that.
That's my 14-year-old.
It's interesting, even like with that as well. I'm glad that the Game Boy, the original Game Boy, you know, with the addition of the worm light under my covers at night, you know,
Yeah.
totally that just brings flashbacks to me for that playing, you know, Pokemon Silver or Pokemon Blue or whatever.
Well, the old
Later.
Game Boy with the worm light and those what, 4 or 8 batteries only had about an hour's worth of gameplay anyway.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
How come you're going through so many batteries, son?
I think it's kind of interesting, that idea. You know, you're talking a little bit about it earlier, Per. This, you know, about how when, you know, games are being so ubiquitous and so accessible. You know, for example, my daughters, we picked up with them an Elmo game for DS, right? Like they're 4 and 6, and they're, you know, building shapes, identifying it. So what role do you think gaming can play in childhood development, if any at all?
Yeah, I think, I mean, there's obviously been a lot written about, you know, games and kids and the impact. I mean, there's some interesting books too. I don't know if you've ever read Everything Bad is Good for You too, which argues that complex games and even soap operas, right? Like anything where you follow all these different like threads of stories are actually good for you, right? Like you're playing a game like a Zelda game, and you walk past a hookshot target, and you're like, oh, I know what that is, and you are remembering that, and you're coming back, which is a very different thing from reading a linear book, where yes, you remember the parts of the story, but you're not making plans to come around. So I gotta think there's some really positive stuff in these games on you know, how that can help kids develop and really, you know, help their memory and their cognitive skills, and certainly hand-eye coordination too. You know, like I can give my dad a controller and Halo all I want. He's never going to be able to not look at the ceiling while trying to shoot somebody. Whereas, you know, kids learn those controls at a young age now, and it becomes second nature. But at the same time, I mean, video games are also the most convenient distraction, right? And it's not just video games now. Now video games have turned into a platform for media, where for a lot of kids, it's even easier to just lean back and listen to PewDiePie or Markiplier, you know, talk while playing a game.
They don't even have to play the video game anymore. They can just
Yeah,
watch
they don't even have to exert the effort of solving the riddle. They just kind of, it's a constant give, and so they kind of combine television and gaming. And I think there's probably an issue there somewhere, you know.
Yeah. Very cool. Right on. So I guess maybe the last thing we could just touch on here, as far as this parenting chat here. You know, do you have any? What are your go-to? You know, games for in the house? You know, fun games that you enjoy playing with your kids. You know, both video games and even, you know, your board games too. I think that another, you know, we'd love to hear
All
something.
right. Okay. Let me. I'm gonna have to write down all the board games. I'm probably a little obsessive when it comes to collecting stuff. You know, I don't know if you noticed with Amiibo. Like when I started playing board games again, and there was a big gap, right? My kids were too little, so, you know, instead of having them cry over Chutes and Ladders, we kind of skipped that in the beginning. Only did card games, but now that they're old enough, I went crazy. I mean, I have a huge board game collection. I love miniature games and all that. So on the video game front, I mean, to me, the Nintendo platforms are absolutely wonderful, for not just giving kids something to play, but playing together with them. And that's really an experience that I always seek out, right? Just think even of like a single player game like Mario Galaxy. You could, as a parent, be the guiding light, you know? And that Ubisoft's done that more recently with Child of Light as well. There are other games like even Captain Toad Treasure Tracker, which is not a multiplayer game. you can sit in front of the TV as the whole family and try to find Toad. It becomes almost like an extension of a board game, or like a Where's Waldo book, right? Like one person is in control, and the kids are looking for Toad in the level. So
That's
really,
actually exactly what my kids do. Like,
there you go, right?
6-year-old, we sit on the couch, and actually today before we went to bed, my youngest said, "Can we play Captain Toad before we go to bed?"
Yep.
And that's exactly it. This is Where's Waldo, and my oldest, who's 6 now, she can actually begin to control, using the gamepad, the directions. She can, if it's a simpler level, she can almost get it down now, right? With a little bit of coaching here and there. So it's you're right about that couch co-op idea.
Yeah, and then obviously, Nintendo has games like Smash Brothers, which is, it's just like the moment you start, you're in for a long time, and playing with kids can be just really fun. They give you so many customization options. My son is absolutely deadly with Charizard. It's horrible. Smash, Mario Kart, all the Lego games are really fun with kids.
Oh yeah.
Obviously Skylanders, Mario Party. Mario Party to me is a game where like the kids always have more fun than I do, but that's kind of like the, the sacrifice you make as a parent. There are a couple of games like that.
Yes, that purchase is more for my children.
Yeah, exactly. But then there are also games that I buy for my children, right? Like where my daughter is really into anime and, kind of like really cool Japanese stuff. She's a quarter Japanese as well. And so I got her games like Theatrhythm and Fantasy Life, and she really, really digs those worlds, really likes those games. With my boys, we actually played a ton of Destiny co-op on multiple Xboxes that we have linked in the house. I kind of made the decision that I felt Call of Duty and obviously GTA, but Call of Duty, a lot of the shooters were too visceral, too realistic. When you shoot a soldier, you kind of like, you feel like you killed a human, right? Like it has this real impact. And I said pretty early on, hey, that's something they can play with their older. But I felt like Halo and Destiny are closer to Star Wars, where I'm like, if I play it with them, I can see their behavior, and the way the games are set up in co-op, it's an experience where you're taking care of each other. So it doesn't become a me against the world kill game, and it becomes a working together and taking care of each other game. So we had a lot of fun. My daughter played it too, but playing 4-player Destiny together as well.
You're kind of talking about this, to the point of like Halo and Call of Duty, and even your son with the GTA.
Mm-hmm.
What's is there a tool? Obviously, you're very deep in the industry. We're kind of on the fringe of the industry and enjoying what we do and have information games. But if they're kind of like a new parent who stumbled on the kids have Nintendo or video games, is there like a best practice for video game purchasing, to a website to go to check for like ratings? I know that there's obviously the ESRB ratings on it, but like,
yeah,
is there any other resources to parents to assist them in those decision making, so you're not getting a GTA 5 for your 13-year-old who says every other kid's playing it?
Yeah, I think the first step, unfortunately, is knowing and caring and understanding that video games are more varied now than movies. Like no parent would go to a Target and pick up the Blu-ray for, I don't know, Human Centipede, or like Haunting in Connecticut or something. They look at the box and they immediately understand what that means. And for some reason, there's an entire generation of people who are blind to the depiction on the cover of a box and that giant M that's staring at you. And so I think the bigger issue, honestly, is people wanting to find the information. John Davison, who used to run GameSpot, good friend of mine, lives up here in Marin as well. He tried to create a website that was exactly that, and we actually, it unfortunately didn't go anywhere. It failed because parents did not want to seek out the information in the first place. It failed. We actually took over the website and integrated some of the data. We tried to do a partnership with Walmart around it, trying to do in-store displays that help people. That fell apart. It's just, the best place is the box.
And yet they still blame the game developers for making such content.
Yeah, there's more to that though, right? Like you could argue that sometimes the games are marketed to younger audiences, and the publishers could do a better job at making sure that the time slots they pick for the ads are actually when more adults are watching. And I think that's happened more and more now, right? Like now you see ads on The Walking Dead rather than on Nickelodeon for a shooter. But But yeah, I think esrb.org is the best place. Like, you get very, very clear information when you're looking for it. I did a series of talks at middle schools up here in the Bay Area, where I basically, just gave it straight up to parents and said, your initial reaction to anything you see here is to say, oh, my kids should not play these games. That's terrible what's going on in gaming. You need to realize that there's an adult audience that enjoys this content. You would never sit your kid in front of The Godfather 2, watch that with a 9-year-old. The story is too complex. It's too, it's too violent. It's too long. And the same thing applies to video games. You just got to start caring.
Yeah, I think that really is. I mean, kind of going back to what you were saying. The reason why a lot of those sort of efforts have failed is because a lot of parents just don't care, right? And there's this big misunderstanding about what video games are and who the audience is, for sure.
And it's inconvenient. And the pity is, let's face it, Grand Theft Auto 5 is really good. And so, if you're just doing superficial research, even on Amazon, you see full stars, it's amazing, and sometimes parents don't take that extra step to say, yes, it's good, but is it right? And
Then there are some people.
I want my kids to experience these games eventually, but they're too young now.
And then I've heard of some parents thinking that it's because it's rated M, it's against the law to sell it to someone younger than 17. And that's not true. Just like the movie industry self-regulates themselves by giving a rating system, ESRB is a self-regulated part of the gaming industry. With the whole intent of keeping the government out of it.
There are actually more hurdles in the way of someone purchasing a game. The GameStop gets a lot of grief. They actually do a really good job.
Yeah,
when I go into a GameStop,
I agree.
I hear all the time where someone says, someone says, "Oh no, ma'am, this game's not good for minors." Right?
Right, and on the counter side of that, just because it isn't against the law to do it, it is a good policy to not do it. So there is a difference between law and policy.
For sure. You
So,
guys,
right on.
Sorry, you guys asked about the kind of the best board games. I don't know. Are you guys into board games at all?
Yes, absolutely.
Yeah. Oh yeah, for sure.
So we've been playing just before this podcast. I was playing Star Wars Armada with my son. It's a miniatures game where you've got little Star Destroyers and then TIE Fighters, X-wings, and capital ships, and you're trying to outsmart the other player. So I was playing that. There's X-wing, the miniatures game that has everything from the Millennium Falcon to the most obscure expanded universe ships. I love Small World. Have you guys played that?
Yes.
Oh, it's so good.
Never heard of that one.
Yeah. Twilight Struggle, really good card games. Android Netrunner, love playing those games. The young one struggles a little bit with those, but for him, games like Machikoro is really good. Seven Wonders. One game actually I forgot to mention that my kids totally took to was Civilization, and board
cool.
game as well as the console game. Civilization Revolution was kind of a pared down version of the classic. They loved it. They play it networked on the 360 to this date. I picked it up for $10 a copy. I bought four copies of it, and it's just they love just exploring the world and building monuments.
Very cool.
Have you a good one for maybe your list if you haven't had a chance, Parrot, is Kings of Tokyo.
Oh yeah. No, I have that too.
That's fantastic.
Yeah.
My kids love playing that one.
Oh, it's brilliant. I mean, it's like the perfect evolution of Yahtzee, right? And then adding that whole kind of Godzilla monsters factor to it. Yeah. There's just so many good board games now. If you're a geek and you love Lord of the Rings, you can get this really complex game full with miniatures. You can get the card game. You can do Game of Thrones. Whatever you love. Oldie but classic, of course, is Ticket to Ride as well. Really good game. So much good stuff.
I picked up the iPad version of that and never learned how to play.
Oh, it's so good. It's actually really simple.
Did you play? Have you played any that? I picked up this game a while ago called I think it's Marvel Dice Masters. I don't know if you'd seen that at all. It's similar to, I think there's another game that's by WizKids. It's almost like just a big bag of dice, but almost sort of similar to Magic the Gathering as well at the same time. Where
I haven't checked that out. Yeah,
it's pretty interesting. Where it's pretty easy
But
to pick up and play. And
But I will say, I mean, the experience, especially when playing with younger kids, after a game like Destiny or Halo, they're riled up. There's no question about it. And like, it's not necessarily shooters, but any of the kind of high octane games, like you could probably get a similar reaction when you're racing against each other in Forza or playing a competitive game like Smash Brothers. But they run up the walls, whereas like they get excited during a board game, but they kind of really sweet afterwards. Like I really like the kind of calming effect of sitting together, and they get upset when they lose or something happens, but it really is a nice way to ground your kids, after a week of video games.
Have you heard of the Kickstarter game Exploding Kittens?
No.
It's kind of a modern take on like a Russian roulette, but using cards, and
Oh yeah.
they're
Made by the guy from the Oatmeal, I think was the.
Yeah.
Oh, that's awesome.
Yeah, I backed that project. I think this was the project that has the most backers on any one project. It had
That's
over
awesome.
219,000 backers, and got
I'm a sucker for good, especially good board game and card game Kickstarters. I've backed a ton of stuff from like Tesla versus Edison to this Thunderbirds game, Wings of Glory, all that kind of stuff. So
yeah. The base game is touted as safe for all ages, but there is an adult version that so
pretty ridiculous for what I saw.
yeah. I'm looking forward to getting my hands on it.
wow, $8.7 million pledged. Holy moly!
Yeah, it was pretty nuts. Well, Pear, I just looking at the time here. I know we kind of said about an hour. We've still got some other stuff going on. If you need to duck out, that's totally fine. If you want to stick around and talk about what you've been playing, if you've been playing anything, then that also works. Whatever you're comfortable with. I just kind of wanted to make that note.
I actually got to put some of my kids in bed, but I can stick around for the what are you playing section, and then I got to bolt.
Okay, sounds good. So let's go straight into that then. Awesome. So actually, Pear, why don't we let you start off this week? Being our special guest. What have you been playing this week?
Oh, that's very nice. Affordable Space Adventures on the Wii U, actually.
Oh, right on.
Yeah, did you guys download that yet?
I haven't. I've heard lots about it, and I'm kind of gun shy to pull the trigger on that. Is it local multiplayer only, or is there online?
No, it's local multiplayer only, but you can play it in single player too.
Okay.
Now you can go single, double, and 3 on that, right?
Yeah, and this is, I didn't mention that before, but that's one game that I'm playing with my kids right now where I kind of wish it had 4-player because everybody really wants to play it. It's all about dividing up the tasks, and it can be really stressful, but it almost has, the player who gets the gamepad, the engineer, it almost has an FTL-like quality where somebody has to manage the systems and has to make sure your spaceship isn't too loud so that the enemies don't detect you, or can shut off the lights so that nobody sees you, and like the guy who mans the light goes, hey, turn the light back on. So it's very, very clever. Awesome game. You should definitely check that one out.
Yeah, it kind of looks like almost feels like Space Team a little bit as far like for iOS if you played that. Does it kind of feel like that? I've kind of seen that comparison. With Space Team.
Yeah. It's similar, but it's like it almost has, it almost feels like classic 2D exploration games or shooters, even like Choplift or Hero or something. I'm old, sorry, but
or like Subterranean. I don't know if you ever played Subterranea for the Genesis.
Yeah, that kind of stuff. But it's definitely about solving a puzzle. You have a level that's a puzzle. You have to hit a switch somehow, but there's a mine in front of it that blows up when you fly by with your loud spaceship. So what do? Like you accelerate and turn off all the engines and coast through the air and like jump it, like you crash into the water. So you kind of avoid your enemies. Like it's very clever the way it's set up, and the multiplayer really makes it for me. It's a really good game. And then I've been playing around with the new Street Pass games, of course, too.
Yeah, I've been playing those as well. So did you pick up both of them? Which one is your favorite out of the two? Would you say?
I I can't tell yet. I mean, I have a feeling the zombie game is gonna go the route of what was the name of the shooter in the original set, the 2D shooter?
Like Me Force or something like
Yeah,
that.
Me Force, where it's like it was really good, but it had a very limited shelf life. Once you'd seen every level, it was done. Whereas like some of the other things, like Puzzle Swap, like you can keep on going because it has this collector level, or the army, like you want to build your army or unlock more flowers than the other ones. And I have a
Yeah.
feeling the fishing game ultimately is going to last longer.
No, yeah, I think that's fair. Initially, I've definitely been more enjoying the like, because I'll take my 3DS to work, and there's like the same three people who I pass on the way, either to or from work or whatever, and so I've been playing through some of that, and the gameplay is actually pretty fun going through those levels, and the different hobbies provide different weapons and stuff like that. So there's somebody who their hobby is reading, and so like I have this weaponized pop-up book with like the charge up ability is like this dragon that has like this devastating charge up attack, and stuff like that. It's I'm really enjoying that one. I feel like the fishing one, I'm kind of like not sure if I'm doing it right, because it keeps saying, oh, you need to catch this one fish, but I have played it probably half a dozen times, and they're just keep getting the same fish over and over again, and I'm like, oh, am I doing this wrong? I don't know. It's weird, but
Yeah, the key is mixing your lures and all that, right?
right, yeah, okay,
Yeah.
for sure.
But
Yeah,
I've also noticed. I mean, the number of people with Street Pass has gone down a lot in my area. Like, I used to fly to LA from San Francisco and just get a ton at the airport, and I'm just getting a trickle now. And so, I think these new releases will bring back the Street Pass, the culture in our office again. So we used to always fill up everybody's 3DS because there's so many people with them, but it kind of slowed down.
It's like E3 at the office every day.
Yeah, no, we actually have some people who walk very close to our office in hopes to get more street passes. So
I bet.
we sometimes put our 3DSs really close to the windows, because it's you got to get lucky to actually pick them up at that distance. We're on the 4th floor.
Oh yeah.
You
So
know?
I didn't realize with Street Pass that when they actually, someone comes into your plaza, and you kind of accept them in, that right then and there you should go like to your puzzle swap and do all those little games. I didn't realize that. I thought that they would just kind of like that puzzle swap data would just stay there.
Nope.
Oh no.
Oh yeah,
Yeah,
no, you
so
lose
this
that if you
weekend-
do it again.
This weekend I was at the Calgary Entertainment Expo, which is kind of like a really small version of Comic-Con.
Yeah.
And I got 95 street passes in less than 12 hours.
Huh.
And only the last 3 that I actually bother going and getting like puzzle swaps.
Oh
now.
no.
Oh God, no.
I just kept letting them in, and I was like, "Come in my plaza, come in."
Yeah.
And I was like,
So-
"Oh, all that information will be there later when I go." And
So
Yeah.
when,
I was.
yeah, when we do the NVC live show, we've done 2 so far, where we invite fans in the office. I bring my daughter. I give her my 3DS and Jose's and Brian's 3DS, and I'm like, your job is just to clear out street passes the entire time, so everybody gets one of ours.
Yeah, I was at E3 the first year 3DS was launched, and I would, like every maybe hour and a half, I would just take a small break and just start flushing those things out. And as soon as I flushed out the first 10, I'd have 10 more. So my little break turned into maybe a half hour of just lounging and keeping.
Yeah, I
Fun
love.
stuff,
I think the idea of Street Pass is great. I still kind of wish that there was some sort of 3DS Wii U cross compatibility where I think it would be really great, and maybe talking about the NX, the idea that they could be either like two systems that are really deeply integrated, or just like a single mobile and console system or whatever. I really hope that Street Pass is something that is maintained in that transition, because it's something that the idea is really fun there, and I think that it's just the implementation has kind of held it back, and I think that it could be something that it would be great to have Wii U games that had some Street Pass functionality as well, or something like that.
Yeah, I think it's really clever. I really like the idea better than the implementation, but I think they did a pretty good job with clever little games that kept us entertained for a very long time. I'd say some of them did last for a while, and none of them were bad. I think they just need to figure out how you speed up the process more, because really, I mean, after you've talked to the flower guy for the 5th time, it's just gotta stop, right? Like, they need to give you a way to just instantly skip and let you get to the meat of the game. And like they haven't figured that part out yet, which is confounding.
If you hold down ZL or ZR now,
Yeah.
Yeah, that's been like
was that part of that new patch, right?
Yeah.
Now that's been there since day one.
Okay.
But it's still not fast enough. Like, after you've played these a couple of times, you're like,
Yeah.
okay, I don't need to see this animation. You know, like Fire Emblem gets that right. Like, after a while, you've seen all the animations, you just turn all that off, and that game is blazingly fast.
Things like the puzzle, that goes plenty fast, but everything else kind of slows you down at all the prompts.
Yep.
But yeah, I've been liking the Street Pass games so far too. As for the VIP features, that was something that I was like, oh, I wonder if that's actually going to be, something I'm interested in. And I was like, nope. I looked into it, and you get birthdays in a VIP room, and it upgrades the music player so you can play music with the clamshell closed. Like, I was like, yeah, that's no.
It's for the guy who has everything.
Exactly. For sure. How about you, Justin? What have you been playing this week?
Really, it's just been the Street Pass on like a fool this weekend, and then just playing some more Mario Kart getting prepped for tomorrow. So I'm excited for the DLC pack, and I'll have lots to review and talk about. No, that won't be next week because I'm traveling. So soon, but I'm excited.
No. And how about you, Dusty? What have you been playing?
Apparently, I'm the only one who hasn't been playing Street Pass games.
I guess.
Sad, Jesse.
No, I haven't been playing much. I tried playing Xenoblade, and I'm in the first little cave outside your initial meet and greet with your town, your city, whatever you are, and I don't get it. This battle system isn't syncing with me. I've cleared it before. I've gotten past it when I played it on the Wii. I got like 6 to 8 hours into it, but here I'm stuck at an hour and a half. I'm not sure what I'm missing.
I actually got stuck on it initially, and I had to look up fairly early on. There's a boss that you cannot beat, and maybe this is where you got stuck. That you cannot beat unless you do like a combo or something, a combo chain or something.
That's probably what it is, and the game's trying to teach me the combo system, but I don't know. I didn't get how to trigger it.
There's a specific. It's not very intuitive actually. Like when you first are battling, if you use the D-pad to go up or down in that center circle there, if you push up or down on the D-pad, then it will actually cycle through, and one of them is a chain, and you have to cycle through to that and then hit the button, and it'll like start a chain attack. So that's where I got stuck, and maybe it's where you're getting stuck. But I've been playing a little bit of that too, and it's been pretty. I don't know. It's interesting. I kind of talked about last week, railed on it about how it's amazing for the first new 3DS only game that it's kind of an ugly game on the 3DS, but
that hasn't really bothered me.
Yeah, it seems like especially early on it was pretty ugly, and I feel like it's getting a little bit less ugly as I continue to play.
Is this the fight where you had like the higher level bug in the cave that had like 4 or 5 ads that would all swarm at you at once? Or is this somewhere else?
I think so. I think it might be a little bit further than that, but,
Okay,
but yeah, it's around
yeah,
there.
I couldn't beat that, so I just hugged the wall, snuck around it, and got to other parts of the cave, and still managed to find myself a corpse, or
There's
three
definitely
corpses.
a learning curve to that game that is a little hard to overcome, but
Yeah,
for sure.
those who's played it say it's the best JRPG this generation, if not ever, and it's just not clicking with me. I decided, and half the reason why I was so ticked off about the whole rumor thing, and I wrote that article, is that happened 10 seconds after I shut my clamshell, saying I'm done with this game for the day, and then Twitter happened, so it was like everything all. I was already riled up.
You were already riled. Like, just needed something to be mad at, eh?
Yeah, so if I wasn't upset at the game, I probably wouldn't have gotten as upset about the rumor crap.
Right on. Cool. Well, hey, thanks, Peer. thanks for your time. You were been more than generous with your time so far, and why don't you let everybody know where they can find you and all of the craziness and fun stuff that you are up to on a weekly basis.
Sure, I've got this website called it's called IGN.com. You can
It's a
go
small,
check that
it's a
one
small
out.
company, right?
It's an up and coming site.
We're really proud of what we've done with it so far, and hopefully we'll be adding some more users to it soon. No, it's it's been pretty humbling how the website has grown. Obviously, it's on the backs of many amazing people who have worked on this site and many different teams, and honestly many different owners. I mean, we were part of News Corp at one point, which was all sorts of interesting. So you can check out IGN.com. I love working there. It's a really great team. When you walk through the doors, it will look like your dream job, because it's just a bunch of people hanging out and playing games, and it has that really kind of it doesn't have a corporate feel at all. So when you're in the Bay Area, every first Friday of the month we open our doors. You can sign up for a tour. If the tours are full, you can always tweet at me and I can get you in. So my Twitter handle is PeerIGN, so that's PEER and the letters IG.
Right on. And of course, you are on multiple podcasts as well. Now, I admittedly, because I mostly do Nintendo stuff, I'll only listen to NBC. Are there other podcasts that you poke your head in, or do you like play favorites, or what's the deal with that?
Well, so Jose is a very vocal guy, so he guilts me to get on the NVC podcast every time I'm available. I've been on a lot of the other ones. I don't think I've ever been on Beyond, which is our largest podcast. But I've been on GameScoop and Unlocked in the past as well. We've got a movies podcast, a TV podcast. So we just launched an anime one too, and we've got one dedicated to Destiny even. There's some interesting experiments. But most of the time I'm on NBC. I think I joined IGN as the editor of N64.com way back in the days. So some of that Nintendo love has definitely stuck with me, and I know all the guys from way back when, so it's nice to reminisce and talk about that.
Right on. Well, thanks again for your time and your generosity, and we'd love to have you on again sometime if you want. You're welcome. You're always welcome.
Sounds good.
Yeah,
Thank you so much.
Bear.
All right. Have a good night.
Thank you guys. Good night.
Yeah. See ya. Bye.
Well, at least we don't have time zone issues with him as we did with our other previous guests.
Right on. Does anybody need a pee break before we move on? By the way,
Man,
are you still there, Perry?
That was awesome having him on.
Oh, super cool, man. Super chill. I'm glad like I kind of tried to break the ice a little bit there with at the beginning with it always feels like talking to a podcaster or whatever. Feels like, oh yeah, I know this guy because I listen to him every week. So
Yeah, their podcast at NBC is we'll give them a little bit of a plug here at the end as well, but for where I go for all my Nintendo news, I think we're a bunch of guys yakking around a podcast, giving our commentary, but they're a bunch of guys who are in the industry, hands-on, working, sometimes in the trenches or
full time,
and they know those things. So they're a podcast that as soon as they come down on my catcher, it's instantly downloaded. I'm stopping whatever I'm watching or whatever I'm listening to listen to them. So I think that was incredible. And thank you for taking most of that weight there, Zach. With my voice, I couldn't talk.
Oh yeah, no, I kind of figured that's because I was like, well, he's being super quiet, but at the same time, of course, I'm happy to.
I know you've told me this before, but what does NVC stand for?
Nintendo Voice Chat.
Okay, I bet I'm gonna sub up on that so I can start listening. I haven't done that yet.
I would say this: one of the biggest compliments we ever received on Twitter was someone referred to our show like an IGN light, and I thought that's an incredible compliment to have. And then when we obviously record on Wednesday, we put out on Thursday. I listened to them on Friday because they record Thursday night, they put out Friday. What we talk about here almost mirrors what they talk about on their show.
And we kind of scoop them sometimes.
Yeah, and I think Wednesday is like the best night because a lot of the big news comes out Tuesday, Wednesday, so we can be the first people to talk about it.
But
Nintendo World Report people, they record Thursdays too, but sometimes they don't even talk about what happened until next week.
Yeah, so I think
they seem to be way behind.
yeah, for me, it's kind of this credibility of like a lot of us have the exact same mentality or thought or views towards what Nintendo's doing as well. It's great to hear that alignment with our little three of us in line with a big industry like that. It's I think helps to increase some credibility. So it's incredible.
Okay, not to be a downer, but I was not recording. I think that was a lot of self-congratulating anyways. So
Yeah, it was. It was. We'll move right into the postman, and then we'll do like I said at the very end. We'll have a little chat about. I'll give Per another plug for how great NBC is.
Yeah, totally. Okay, so I'm gonna hit record, and then I'm immediately gonna play the bumper. Welcome everybody to the Postman part of our show, listener mail. We have an email from Paul Ganson this week, and it goes like this. Hey guys, really enjoy the podcast. It's great to hear gaming from the perspective of fathers and identifying good games to share with young children. My oldest is 4 and is always more than intrigued when I bring out my gaming stuff. I just picked up my first amiibo, Toad for Captain Toad, and I have been enjoying the bonus. I'm looking forward to Yoshi's Woolly World and the Yarn amiibo for those. Do you think there would be a Kirby crossover for this game from Kirby's Epic Yarn, possibly available through Amiibo Unlock? Is that too much to hope for? Possibly a Yarn Kirby amiibo? What do you guys think of the idea? And then again, that was Paul Ganson. What do you guys think? Yarn, or what is it, Kirby's Epic Yarn? So like a Yarn Kirby amiibo? Do you think that's something that's possible? What do you think?
Yeah, I don't really. I want to say yes because it'll sell. You know what I mean? Like they'll make bank off of that, so it makes sense. But what I'm seeing is that they're tying their amiibos with launch title lines, and I don't know if the fact that it's a yarn is enough to tie it together. Don't mind the pun of tying yarn together. My voice is bad, so I've got to save the good jokes. So I'd like to say yes, but I do think that what they're going to see is a yarn amiibo is going to sell like hotcakes, and they're going to say, we should probably do more of. And they might think about the Kirby one. But I think like a Kirby into Yoshi kind of crossover makes logical sense.
I think at the very least, if they were to do it, I think that it would be a lot easier for them to just take the Smash Brothers Kirby amiibo and just have that open up a sort of yarn a yarn Kirby sort of play as Kirby in this game or something like that. And they could even go further with that, say with maybe have Paper Mario also included in the game, and so some of those sort of alternate universe versions of Nintendo characters. I think Paper Mario could potentially be an interesting addition to that as well. But I honestly, if I had to guess, that he kind of ends the email, is that too much to hope for? I feel like the potential of having a Kirby yarn. You see, the thing is that as soon as I start saying no, I don't think they're going to do that, then I start thinking, yeah, but that sort of plushy, market of amiibos, that sort of segment of amiibo in general, Kirby is the next natural choice. I don't think it would necessarily be Kirby's Epic Yarn, because that was just basically an outline of Kirby in yarn.
And that was what I was going to say. Yeah, Yoshi in the game looks like a fully fleshed out figure you can pick up and manipulate just like the amiibo, but Kirby was just the outline, and so they would have to do something different.
Having said that, if they were to take another Nintendo character that is not Yoshi and do what they did to Yoshi to another one, then Kirby is the natural choice with that as well. So I don't necessarily think it would be that outline Kirby, but you may very well see a sort of crocheted looking Kirby in the same sort of style that Yoshi is in Woolly World.
Is
so that would be fun.
Kirby's crochets something. I see. You know, I think should be another K word in there somewhere.
Kirby and the Crochet Chaos or something.
Oh, ouch! That hurts. Spelt with 3 Ks.
Yeah, right on.
And then as when people start typing that up in blogs and they use a shortcut, then someone else will get mad
Yeah.
because
So,
internet.
do we have any other? I'm looking at our Twitter or Facebook. Do we have anything else that we want to point out tonight, Justin?
No, I don't. I'm just gonna take a quick gander here. I don't think so. I think that's
This is what it looks like when we're prepared.
Yeah. No, we I think that's it we had today. We might be the Character Crunch crew might want to be getting together for some Mario Kart DLC tournament tomorrow. And if that happens, guys, we'll send out a tweet to everyone to know that we're joining up and we'll join. So
Absolutely.
yeah, no, that's about it, guys. And that's okay then.
And I know they're going to want to talk about Avengers after next weekend.
Oh, don't even, So reviews have started coming in for that. And you can definitely expect an After Dark episode for that when that happens. So stay tuned, everybody. Justin, are you going to go opening weekend? Or are you going to be here for that? Or are you going to be in Boston?
The day, they'll probably do midnight open, hey, on Thursday night.
April 30th, probably, yeah.
30th. I will still be in Boston.
Oh, you dirty beggar.
Yeah, I won't be. And the day I fly back, like I'm then in Calgary for 4 days. Like I'm not actually back to Lethbridge till Tuesday. Yeah, I'm a real jerk.
Jeez. Well, hey, if you're like in Calgary, just go to IMAX or something.
Yeah, that's what we should do. It's definitely what my wife wants to do on her date night.
Yeah, that's
We'll see events. So,
should be pretty fun.
what I was gonna say about Paul here, guys. Thanks Paul for emailing us in. We appreciate all of our everyone who hits us up on Twitter, Facebook, email, sends us in calls and stuff like that, guys. We appreciate the engagement. It's awesome.
Absolutely. Yeah, we totally love interacting with everybody on social media, whether it's Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, Google Plus. We don't really get any interaction on Google Plus, do we?
No, I think
yeah, it's dying. You know what? I'm gonna do this. I'm gonna make an executive decision. It's deleted out of the doc. No more Google Plus. We're out.
What?
It's all about making efficiencies in the process. No more Google Plus. So, anyways, you can check us out on all of the other social media: Twitter, Facebook, Instagram. You can email us at nintendodads@gmail.com, twitch.tv/nintendodads. Call us and leave us a voicemail at 929-25-NDADS. That's 929-256-3237. Huge thanks to Peer Schneider from IGN tonight. Man, guys, I honestly feel like when we started this podcast, I didn't think that we were going to be having the opportunity to talk to some awesome people in the industry. So, man, it's great to have him on the show.
Yeah, it was fantastic to have him. He's just so, he's in the industry for so long. He knows the inside. I think definitely bringing that dad's perspective into video game was so appreciative. So we were so honored to have him on, and hopefully we're able to get him bring him on in the future as well. What he did reference, so guys, is NVC, Nintendo Voice Chat. That is, if you download our podcast, you definitely need to download their podcast. There, I think if you go to iTunes and type in the word Nintendo and podcast, they should be the number one. They are a fantastic podcast from individuals in the video game Nintendo industry and in that space of journalism. And they're kind of where I turn to for a lot of my news as well. So definitely check them out, these guys.
Absolutely. As well, you can, of course, big thanks to ocremix.org for the music, both our intro and outro music. Thanks to Carter Johnson for our amazing artwork. You can check out her artwork at megacarter.tumblr.com. And, of course, you can download us on iTunes, Stitcher, or at bgtribune.com. Thank you, everybody, for so much great times. So much great... wow, it's been a long night, but thanks,
It's your turn to stumble on words.
Yeah, thanks again to Peer and to everybody listening. We will see you next week.
Swear to me. You know, nobody ever uses our phone line. We set up this phone line. I would love for someone to phone me up.
You never call your mother.
Yo, exactly, right? Like, just call in. Oh, it's there. It's a great. we have a voicemail there, right? Like, say, hi, you've reached Nintendo Dads. Please leave a message.
Yeah, I recorded the greeting.
I imagine there's like a receptionist who's just sitting there waiting at the phone, and it's now just like a skeleton covered in cobwebs and
This one poor lady. I thought they said they were gonna pay us.
With
They're
a-
gonna pay me.
It's a lady with a very deep voice.
Welcome to Nintendo Dads. What?
Man. Can we talk just for a second, by the way, about that Superman Batman trailer?
Sure.
Did you watch that, Justin?
I did a couple times.
What are you thinking about that movie?
I think that one helmet looks like a Lego Batman.
Which totally does. What do I think about it? I think the fact that they're admitting. I think one of the flaws in the last Superman movie was that so many people died, and so many people got destroyed.
Mm-hmm.
That solid scene. That I didn't want them to just kind of like whitewash that. And it sounds like they're really attacking that head on, which I think is a really interesting approach. But they're tailoring it. Excuse me. They're tailoring it that Superman is bad, that Batman is kind of good, or at least maybe that's sort of the trailer makes it appear. You know, we saw this idolization. We saw Go Home. It looks really, really, really dark, right? Like,
And that's just where I want it.
yeah, like I mean, I'm interested in it, but I think the problem is like when you look at we got the Avengers a couple days from now. The Star Wars trailer dropped, right?
Oh, I forgot. Yeah,
And
that's
then
another one.
A couple of days later, you dropped this one. Like, you probably should have held off on this one for like 6
Just
weeks.
let the euphoria of the Star Wars trailer just like.
Yeah, because there was like, and that's been the thing I've heard from everyone. They're like, oh yeah, we saw this one. Oh yeah, we all saw this was alright.
No, my favorite reaction to this is: do you follow the how it should have ended videos on YouTube?
Yeah.
So they did a thing about the trailer, and starts off with Batman asking Superman, "So did you see the trailer?" And he goes, "Oh yeah, it was great. I saw it so many times. It moved me to tears when Han Solo talked to Chewie." And Batman's like, "No.
Oh, that's so funny. Yeah, I don't know. I think I get really hard. I get really hard. Wow, that's not what I mean.
Still recording, right?
This is still streaming on Twitch."
It's really difficult for me to get excited about this movie. It's like because it's not the sort of it doesn't contain any like hype sauce. You know, it's just like we're dark and brooding, and you know, I'm just like, oh, yeah, okay, like Batman's a grouch in this movie. So what? Like he hates Superman. Like why am I excited about this? I'm not.
Yeah, my daughter asked. I thought they were friends.
It's just like getting whiny and moody.
Yeah, but my daughter goes, "I thought." Go ahead.
We've established Superman in this world, in Zack Snyder's world. We've established who he is, what has occurred, the events and everything here. The trailer spent a good 80% on that as an aftermath, where it should have spent 80% on the Batman story, to give us a bit of insight into that world, and to what's causing him to bring to the point of I want to fight Superman, and then the last 20% should be the whole. You know, this is Superman's way. This is what's occurred to Superman. That's a problem. Is this feels really weighted very heavily on the Superman side, but we know that story. I shouldn't say we know that story, but we can make very easy connections to it.
Yeah. Whereas really, what this teaser should have been is instead of like all this weird sort of political commentary, like why was Bruce Wayne not monologuing and the voiceover all Bruce Wayne talking about his thoughts of it and stuff like that, right? Like that would have been a lot more interesting instead of, old Ben Affleck giving his scowl, which told us nothing about the character, nothing about his take on anything. It honestly made Batman from that trailer look super one-dimensional, and the entire character is, I hate Superman. I'm holding a gun that I'm going to shoot Superman with. I'm wearing armor that will help me fight Superman. Like that's the only thing that you even get out of Batman in that trailer.
Yeah. I thought it was.
Anyway.
Yep, my youngest daughter, who's seen a lot of the Justice League cartoons and stuff, goes, I thought these two were friends. Like, they end up being friends, yes, but when they first meet, they have a distrust for each other just because of how they do the same thing in two completely different ways.
Well, I mean, you know what the thing they say about Zack Schneider.
You never know.
Oh, dang it, I had it turned down.
You would never
Let me
know.
try that again. You know what they say about Zack Schneider.
You never know what you are going.
They don't say that about Michael Bay. You know exactly what you're gonna get.
So
Right on, guys. All right.
yeah, I think I am excited to see it, but definitely my hype is not as high as it should be for it. And I think that the Marvel approach that they're taking, I mean, they've been, in a couple of interviews I've heard, they've been very serious of saying like, DC wants to take a dark approach to how they approach their characters, to their stories that they tell, and I think that it's a little bit more grittier and a little bit more use a realistic with the approach that they're trying to take here. But I think in that you might be losing some things.
Yeah, I think that you look at Marvel's approach versus DC's approach, and I definitely think Marvel's approach has a wider appeal, and Marvel is going to be more successful because it's fun, it's exciting. Like I don't know very many kids who, you show my 4-year-old son. I show my 4-year-old son the latest Avengers trailer, and he's like, "Yeah, let's go see it, Dad." And I show him the latest like Batman Superman trailer, and he's like, "Why is everybody grouchy?" It's just like I don't know. Like they're aiming for a much different, like a way different audience.
Me, I am their target audience.
Yeah, you are, and I mean for you, I think I'm excited.
Dark and brooding.
But I'm happy that you're happy. Right? Like that's, I don't know. Like you're getting the movie that you want, but I think that for a lot of people who don't have an appreciation for the history of those characters, the movies kind of have a responsibility to bring that excitement to the fans and to the potential fans. And I have a hard time seeing them attracting people. I mean, it's going to be word of mouth, right? Obviously Superman, Batman, there will be a lot of people who do that just based on the name alone. But I don't know.
Yeah, and then obviously we had the Star Wars trailer. That was pretty.
Yeah, Star Wars trailer looked great.
Did you see
Roger?
Roger?
Did you see
Roger did a video of himself watching the Star Wars trailer.
Oh, really?
Yeah, and normally in those videos he's all over the top, excited and hype, and the one about Shin Megami Tensei Cross Fire Emblem during the direct, he was going nuts. This one he was the quietest I've ever heard him, and then a quiet Roger is scary, and he had tears coming from his eyes at the end.
It's so funny. I don't know. I love it. Did you see the video of BB-8 from the Star Wars Celebration, like up on stage?
Oh.
It's so BB-8 is the new droid that's like the soccer ball droid, right? Like turns out that was an entirely practical effect. So that droid that's rolling around on top of a ball was actually like rolled out this little remote control droid on stage, and we're like, yep, it's actually it's not digital. Like obviously some of it would have been digital, but we actually had this droid up on stage, and they're going to be selling. It's from Sphero, which is like a company that has like remote control balls and stuff like that you can control with your phone. They're actually going to be releasing a remote control BB-8 that you can buy.
I want a remote controlled Baymax.
So nice. So yeah, good times. Okay, well I think that about does it. Anything else?
I finished Daredevil.
You did?
Yeah.
So everybody's done. So spoiler alert for. Was it? And it's